Supreme Commander Valthax stood at the observation deck of the Hegemony's flagship, his four eyes fixed on the holographic display of a small blue planet. Behind him, his advisors waited nervously, their tentacles twitching with uncertainty. "Another primitive species," Valthax said, his voice carrying the weight of 12,000 years of conquest. "Tell me about them." Junior analyst Zix 427 stepped forward, their crystalline body reflecting the starlight. "They call themselves humans. Supreme Commander, they've only achieved basic space travel, with small colonies on their moon and the red planet they call Mars. Their technology is primitive by our standards." Valthax zoomed in on the images of Earth's cities. Something about them seemed different from other worlds they'd conquered. The cities weren't built in the usual efficient patterns. They were chaotic, growing organically, like a wild garden rather than a planned settlement. "Their military capabilities?" Valthax asked, following standard protocol. "They've never unified their planet fully, Supreme Commander. They still maintain separate nations and armies. Their weapons are based on primitive chemical propulsion and basic atomic technology. Nothing that could threaten our shields." The Supreme Commander noticed something odd in the data streams. These readings, they show an unusually high number of military installations for a pre-unified species. Senior military advisor Krell cleared his throat sacs. "A curious anomaly, yes. They seem to spend an extraordinary amount of resources on military development. Our historians note that most species focus on scientific or cultural advancement before achieving spaceflight. These humans, they developed weapons first." Valthax watched as the hologram showed various human weapons: tanks, fighter jets, warships, simple machines, yet there were so many different types. Why so many variations? Wouldn't one effective design be sufficient? "They appear to constantly compete with each other, sir," Zix 427 explained. "Each nation develops its own military technology. They call it an arms race. It's highly inefficient by our standards." Valthax felt a slight twinge of unease, something he hadn't experienced in centuries of conquest. These humans were different. They didn't follow the normal pattern of species development that the hegemony had documented across thousands of worlds. Still, protocol was protocol. "Send the standard subjugation fleet," he ordered. "Formation Delta 7 should be sufficient. It's never failed against a pre-FTL civilization." As his officers rushed to comply, Valthax's oldest advisor, Ur, approached quietly. "Supreme Commander, might I suggest we review their historical records more thoroughly? Something about their warfare tactics." "The decision is made," Valthax interrupted. "They're confined to one system, using primitive technology. What could possibly go wrong?" The subjugation fleet assembled. 15 capital ships, each carrying enough firepower to level a continent. Standard procedure for dealing with primitive species. As Valthax watched them enter hyperspace, he casually filed away the intelligence reports about human warfare history as non-critical data. In his 12,000 years of service, Valthax had helped conquer 738 species. Each conquest followed a predictable pattern. Show overwhelming force, demand surrender, accept submission. Simple, efficient, and bloodless when done correctly. But as the fleet disappeared into hyperspace, he couldn't shake off a nagging feeling. Something about these humans didn't fit the pattern. The way they built their cities, their obsession with weapons, their constant internal conflicts, it was all wrong. "Send me everything we have on human warfare history," he finally ordered Ur. "Maybe there's something we missed." Little did Valthax know, this small doubtful moment would mark the beginning of the galactic hegemony's greatest military disaster in 12 millennia of conquest. The hegemony's diplomatic vessel Star Whisper emerged from hyperspace at the edge of the Sol system. Captain Mira 9, a veteran of 32 peaceful surrenders, stood confidently on her bridge. Her translucent skin glowed with pride. This would be another simple mission. "Begin broadcasting the surrender demands," she ordered. "Use all 47 standard languages." These humans will understand at least one of them. Her communication officer worked quickly, sending out the message. Primitive species of Sol 3, your existence has been noted by the galactic hegemony. Submit to our rule, and you shall be granted the privilege of serving the greatest empire in known space. The bridge crew waited, expecting the usual response: fear, panic, or immediate surrender. Instead, their sensors detected something unusual. "Captain," the sensor operator called out, his crystalline fingers dancing over the controls. Multiple objects approaching from the third planet, and the fourth planet, and their moon. Mira 9 blinked all three of her eyes in surprise. "Show me." The main screen lit up with hundreds of small ships launching from Earth, Mars, and Luna. They weren't the primitive rockets the intelligence reports had described. These vessels looked sleek, deadly, and very, very prepared. "Impossible," Mira 9 whispered. "Their technology level." Her words were cut short by an incoming transmission. The screen showed a human female in a dark uniform, her face stern but calm. "This is Admiral Sarah Chen of the United Earth Defense Force," the human said in perfect galactic standard. "We've been expecting you." The bridge crew stared in shock. How did they know their language? "Your species will submit," Mira 9 said automatically, following protocol. "To demonstrate our power, we will now destroy your Mars colony as a warning." She nodded to her weapons officer. 3 capital ships moved forward, charging their main guns. The standard intimidation tactic had worked on hundreds of worlds. Admiral Chen smiled. It wasn't a pleasant smile. "I wouldn't do that if I were you." The capital ships fired their energy weapons at Mars. That's when the hegemony learned their second shocking lesson about humanity. The beams hit an energy shield that shouldn't have existed. Then, from what looked like abandoned mining operations across Mars's surface, defense platforms emerged. By the first star, Mira 9 gasped as her sensors registered weapons she'd never seen before. The humans had somehow combined their primitive projectile technology with advanced energy systems. The defense platforms opened fire. Railguns accelerated chunks of metal to near-light speed. Energy weapons that looked suspiciously like modified mining lasers cut through space. The first capital ship split in half. The second exploded as a kinetic round punched through its reactor. The third managed to turn around before a barrage of missiles reduced it to scrap. "That was 3% of our Mars defense grid," Admiral Chen said calmly. "Would you like to see what Earth can do?" Mira 9 stared at the tactical display in horror. The humans hadn't just prepared for defense, they had militarized their entire solar system. Mining operations were weapon platforms in disguise. Cargo ships transformed into warships before her eyes. Even their space stations bristled with hidden weapons. "Retreat," she screamed, abandoning protocol entirely. "Emergency hyperspace jump." As the Star Whisper flooded with the remains of the fleet, Admiral Chen's voice came through one last time. "Tell your leaders this. Earth is not for sale, not for taking, and definitely not for surrendering. We'll be seeing you again soon." Back on her ship, Mira 9 realized with growing dread that this wasn't just a failed first contact. This was the beginning of something the hegemony had never faced. A war with a species that had been preparing for this moment their entire history. General Marcus Rodriguez stood in Earth's Central Command, studying the holographic map of known hegemony space. Around him, technicians worked frantically to process the data they'd gathered from the destroyed alien ships. 3 weeks had passed since humanity's first victory, and they weren't wasting any time. "Sir," a young lieutenant called out, "the reverse engineering team has good news. We've cracked their FTL drive system." Rodriguez smiled. The aliens hadn't expected humans to take apart their ships so quickly. They definitely hadn't expected humans to understand their technology within weeks. But then again, they hadn't known about humanity's secret weapon, decades of science fiction that had already imagined how alien tech might work. "How many stealth ships are ready?" Rodriguez asked. 30. "Sir," We've modified the Black Ghost-class vessels with the alien FTL drives. They're painted with radar-absorbing material we developed for our old stealth bombers." The general nodded. The hegemony would be expecting a defensive war, waiting for their main fleet to arrive. They wouldn't expect humans to strike first. "Show me their supply lines," he ordered. The hologram shifted, showing red lines connecting different alien systems. The hegemony had been ruling space for so long, they'd gotten sloppy. Their supply ships followed the same routes they'd used for thousands of years. "Launch Operation Hidden Dagger," Rodriguez commanded. "Tell the captains, hit, and run only. No heroics." Across the solar system, 30 black ships slipped quietly into FTL travel. Each one carried a crew trained in Earth's ancient art of guerrilla warfare. Centuries of human conflict had taught them how to fight bigger, stronger enemies. On the hegemony supply world of Kex 9, dock worker Zen-12 was having a normal day. The massive supply ships came and went as they had for centuries. Nothing ever changed here. Until something did. A black ship appeared from nowhere. It didn't show up on any sensors. Before anyone could react, it launched what looked like primitive nuclear missiles. The hegemony's advanced shields, designed to stop energy weapons, didn't recognize the old-fashioned nuclear bombs as threats until it was too late. The explosions took out 3 supply ships and half the spaceport. Similar attacks happened across hegemony space. Human ships appeared out of nowhere, used weapons the aliens didn't expect, and disappeared before anyone could respond. They hit fuel depots, communication centers, and supply ships. In his flagship, Supreme Commander Valifax received the reports with growing horror. "Impossible," he shouted, throwing a data pad across the room. "How are they moving through our space? How do they know where to strike?" His intelligence officer, Ur, looked worried. "Sir, we found something in their entertainment records. They have thousands of stories about space warfare. They've been thinking about how to fight in space for centuries before they even reached their moon." Stories. Fiction. Valifax couldn't understand. How does that help them? "They call it science fiction, sir. They've imagined every possible way to fight in space. Now they're using those ideas with our technology." Another report came in. 5 more supply ships destroyed. 3 communication relays knocked out. The humans weren't trying to win big battles. They were bleeding the hegemony with 1,000 small cuts. Back on Earth, General Rodriguez watched the success reports come in. The aliens had superior technology and bigger ships. But humans had something better. Centuries of thinking about space warfare before they even had spaceships. "Send the second wave," he ordered. "Let's show them why you should never give humans time to prepare." The black ships moved out again, silent and deadly, carrying the art of guerrilla warfare to the stars. Dr. Emma Chen stood in her makeshift laboratory on Mars, surrounded by pieces of alien technology and modified human equipment. Her team had just finished converting their 1,000th mining laser into a weapon. Outside, through the dome's windows, she could see hundreds of cargo ships being transformed into warships. Dr. Chen, her assistant Tom, rushed in, holding a tablet. "The hegemony's main fleet has been spotted. They're bringing 50,000 ships this time." Emma didn't look worried. Instead, she smiled and pointed to the strange device in the center of her lab. "And we're ready for them. Show me what the cargo ship conversions look like." The large screen lit up with images of Earth's merchant fleet. Regular cargo containers had been turned into massive kinetic bombs. Fuel tankers now carried special weapons that could disable alien shields. Even the space garbage collectors had been modified into deadly trap layers. "The aliens think we're primitive because we still use simple technology," Emma said, checking some calculations. "But that's their weakness. They've used the same advanced technology for so long, they've forgotten how to think differently." An alarm sounded. The hegemony fleet had arrived at the edge of the solar system. This time, they weren't taking any chances. 50,000 ships, enough to conquer 10 normal species. On the hegemony flagship, Supreme Commander Valfax watched his massive fleet move forward. "Let's see how they handle real power," he said confidently. "Begin the standard attack pattern." But humans don't fight in standard patterns. The first surprise came when the hegemony fleet encountered what looked like a field of space junk. Their sensors showed it was harmless debris. Their ships passed through it easily. Then Emma pressed a button in her lab. The space junk turned out to be disguised mines, each one carrying an electromagnetic pulse modified with alien technology. Hundreds of hegemony ships suddenly lost power. "Impossible," Valfax shouted. "They combined their primitive EMP weapons with our shield technology." That was just the beginning. Modified cargo ships appeared, launching containers at high speed. The hegemony's computers didn't register them as weapons. They were just boxes of metal. But at those speeds, each container hit like a small nuclear bomb. Former mining ships, their industrial lasers upgraded with alien power sources, cut through battleships like they were cutting through rock. Garbage collectors released clouds of tiny robots that ate through ship hulls. "Sir," Valfax's science officer reported, "they're not using our technology the way it's supposed to be used. They're mixing it with their old machines in ways we never thought of." Emma watched from her lab as her creations did their work. Human engineers had taken apart alien technology and rebuilt it their way. They didn't care about following proper scientific procedures or using technology the right way. They only cared about what worked. "Launch the final surprise," she ordered. Across the solar system, thousands of small devices activated. The hegemony fleet suddenly found their advanced targeting systems, showing Earth's ships everywhere and nowhere. The humans had taken old radar jamming technology and combined it with alien sensors. "We can't target them." Valfax's weapons officer screamed. "Our computers can't tell what's real anymore." In just one day, the mighty hegemony fleet lost 5,000 ships. They hadn't lost that many in the last 1,000 years combined. Emma looked at the battle reports with satisfaction. "Send word to all engineering teams," she said. "Time to start working on Phase 2. Let's show them what human creativity can really do." The innovation war had begun, and humanity was just getting started. Lieutenant Sarah Wong sat at her communication station aboard the Earth ship Thunderchild, a smile playing on her lips. She had just finished uploading a special package to the hegemony's communication networks. "Package delivered, Captain," she reported. "Operation Mind Games is ready to begin." Captain James Miller nodded. "Let's show them something they've never seen in their 12,000 years of warfare. Start the broadcast." Across the battlefield, on thousands of hegemony ships, alien crews suddenly heard something strange coming through their speakers. It started with the deep, threatening beats of heavy metal music. Then came the screaming guitars. Finally, human voices shouting war cries. On the hegemony command ship, Communication Officer Zix 427 frantically tried to stop the broadcast. "Supreme Commander, I can't shut it off. They've hacked our entire network." Valfax listened to the strange sounds with growing unease. The music was unlike anything in the hegemony's vast cultural database. It wasn't meant to be beautiful or harmonious. It was meant to intimidate. Then the music changed. Now they heard speeches, hundreds of them, from all of Earth's history. "We shall fight on the beaches. Give me liberty or give me death. This is Sparta." Mixed with the speeches were scenes from human war movies, the sound of tanks rolling across battlefields, the roar of ancient fighter jets, the battle cries of warriors from 1,000 generations. "Sir," the ship's doctor reported, "we're seeing strange reactions in the crew. Many are experiencing fear." Valfax was shocked. Fear was an emotion most advanced species had evolved past. The hegemony hadn't dealt with fear in combat for thousands of years. But humans understood fear. They knew how to use it. On the Thunderchild, Sarah switched to the next phase. Now the aliens saw videos of human warfare through history. Ancient battles with swords and spears. World wars with their massive destruction. modern conflicts with smart weapons and stealth technology. They're not just showing us their history, Valfax realized with horror. They're showing us that they've been practicing warfare their entire existence. The psychological attack continued. Human ships would appear from nowhere, blast their war music, cause destruction, and vanish. The aliens never knew where the next attack would come from. Hegemony crews began making mistakes. Some froze in combat. Others fired at shadows. The fear of humans spread through the fleet like a virus. Remember Earth. The battle cry echoed through space as human ships struck again and afraid again. The aliens had never faced an enemy who seemed to enjoy battle, who turned warfare into an art form. In their 12,000 years of conquest, the hegemony had forgotten something important. Sometimes the scariest enemy isn't the one with the biggest ships or the most advanced technology. Sometimes it's the one who knows how to get inside your head. Sarah received reports from across the battlefield. Entire hegemony battle groups were refusing to engage human forces. The mere sight of an Earth ship was enough to make alien crews panic. "Captain," she reported, "psychological warfare is showing better results than expected. The aliens don't know how to handle an enemy who isn't afraid of them." Captain Miller smiled. "Good. Send the final message. Let's see how they handle this one." Across every hegemony communication channel, in every alien ship, a single message appeared. "You invaded our home. Now we're coming for yours." The message was followed by the sound of human laughter, and that, more than anything else, terrified the hegemony forces to their core. Senior analyst Yer stood before the hegemony High Council, his tentacles trembling as he presented his findings. The massive chamber was filled with the most powerful aliens in the galaxy, and none of them liked what they were hearing. "My leaders," Yer began, "our analysis of human history has revealed something terrifying. We made a terrible mistake in attacking them." He activated a hologram showing Earth's history of warfare. The council members watched in horror as images of battles through time played before them. "Unlike every other species we've encountered," Ware explained, "humans developed warfare before they achieved unity. While other races fought only after reaching the stars, humans have been fighting for their entire history." Supreme Commander Valfax, now looking much older than 3 months ago, stepped forward. "Explain why this matters." Yer changed the display to show human technology. Look at their development path. Nuclear power, developed for weapons first. Space rockets, originally missiles. Computer networks, started as military communication. Their entire civilization is built on warfare. The council chamber erupted in worried whispers. This was completely different from how other species developed. "There's more," Yer continued. "Most species create weapons to fight specific enemies. Humans create weapons just in case they need them. They have weapons for every possible situation." He showed them Earth's military libraries. They have books about fighting in every environment. Underground, underwater, in space, in different gravities. They'd been preparing for every type of war possible, even before they knew they would need to fight them. One council member stood up. "Surely they must have some weakness." Yer shook his head sadly. "That's another problem. When we destroy their weapons, they build better ones. When we block their strategies, they create new ones. They learn from every defeat. They grow stronger from their failures." The hologram showed human ships combining alien technology with their own weapons in ways the hegemony had never imagined. In just 3 months, Yer reported, they've advanced their military technology more than most species do in a century. They're not just using our technology, they're improving it. Valfax looked at the battle statistics. The hegemony had lost more ships in 3 months of fighting humans than they had in the last 500 years combined. "And now," Yer said, his voice getting quieter, "we're seeing something new. Battle groups are refusing to fight. Entire fleets are retreating at the first sign of human ships. Our soldiers are experiencing fear, an emotion we thought our species had evolved past." The council chamber fell silent. In 12,000 years of conquest, this had never happened. A message interrupted the meeting. On every screen, the same report appeared. 3 more hegemony fleets had surrendered after facing human forces. The ship's crews had simply refused to fight. We must face the truth, Ura concluded. We didn't find a primitive species to conquer. We found humanity. A species that has spent its entire existence preparing for war, even though they didn't know who they would be fighting. Valfax looked at the council members. We have a choice to make. We can continue this war and watch our empire crumble, or we can do something we've never done before. What's that? Asked the council member. Retreat, Valfax said simply. Retreat and pray the humans don't decide to come after us. As the council argued about their options, another message arrived. Human ships had been spotted near 3 more hegemony worlds. The choice was becoming clearer. Retreat now, or risk losing everything to the species that treated warfare as an art form. For the first time in 12,000 years, the Great Hall of the Hegemony was silent. Supreme Commander Valfax stood before the High Council, preparing to give an order he never thought he'd give. Send the retreat signal, he said quietly. To all ships, all worlds, all forces, mark the Sol system as extreme hazard. No contact. But even as the order went out, a young officer burst into the chamber. Sir, human ships, they're everywhere. The main screen activated, showing dozens of human vessels appearing near major hegemony worlds. They weren't attacking. They were just watching. Admiral Sarah Chen's face appeared on the screen. She looked calm, almost friendly. Supreme Commander Valfax, I believe it's time we had a real conversation. Valfax looked at his council members, then back at the human. You've won. We're retreating. What more do you want? Sarah smiled. Actually, we'd like to propose something different. A peace treaty. But on our terms. The council chamber erupted in surprised whispers. No species had ever dictated terms to the hegemony before. Your terms, Valfax asked cautiously. First, Sarah began, you will acknowledge Earth and all human colonies as independent territory. Second, you will share your technology with us. Properly this time, not just what we've captured. And third, she paused, and her smile grew wider. You're going to help us protect the younger species in this galaxy from others who might try to conquer them. Valfax blinked all 4 eyes in surprise. Protect them. You want to defend other species. We know what it's like to be attacked just for being less advanced, Sarah explained. We don't want others to go through that. Besides, she added with a small grin, we're pretty good at fighting bullies. On Earth, General Rodriguez watched the exchange from Central Command. Around him, screens showed human ships positioned near every major hegemony world. Not attacking, just reminding them who now held the power. The funny thing is, Rodriguez said to his staff, we never wanted to rule the galaxy. We just wanted to be left alone. But now that we're here, he looked at reports showing dozens of younger species, all living under hegemony control. Species who could now have a chance at freedom. Back in the council chamber, Valfax made his decision. We accept your terms. Excellent, Sarah responded. Oh, and one more thing. We're keeping all the ships we captured. We've made some improvements to them that we think you'll find interesting. Over the next few months, the galaxy changed more than it had in the previous 12,000 years. Human ships became a common sight, not as conquerors, but as protectors. The hegemony learned to work with humans instead of against them, discovering that humans could be surprisingly friendly when they weren't being attacked. Valfax, now serving as a diplomatic advisor, watched a human ship escort a young species' first starship on its maiden voyage. We thought we were the most advanced civilization in the galaxy, he said to no one in particular. But we had forgotten the most important kind of advancement. And what's that? Asked a human diplomat standing nearby. Learning to use power wisely, Valfax replied. Something you humans seem to understand better than us. despite being the younger species. As if to emphasize his point, a message arrived. Another group of worlds had requested human protection, not out of fear, but out of respect. The humans had gone from defending their home to defending the galaxy, all because someone had made the mistake of attacking Earth. And somehow, the galaxy seemed safer for it. In the end, the hegemony's greatest mistake had led to their greatest lesson. Sometimes the most dangerous species in the galaxy could also be its greatest protector.